paying too much? Fair and fresh discussions about property taxes for your home or business. The Property Tax Show with Brad Hayes, Chicagoland's property tax expert.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, I'm in the studio with Jack Charlier. He's the candidate for state representative for District 15. Jack, analysts project that Illinois state retirement systems are going to need $131 billion to cover the benefits, and there's only $46 billion in the bank. The Illinois Constitution guarantees that once earned, pension benefits cannot be diminished or impaired. What do we do about this?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, that is the pressing issue of the day, right? The fiscal message, which is what I lead with on the campaign trail, finding solutions to that, getting our state into the black. The solutions lie in a variety of areas, one of which is reamortizing the pension debt. That means that flattening out, so the amount we pay each and every year is the same. Right now, that's really important because 25% of every dollar going to Springfield right now is going to pay off pension debt. Next year, it's going to rise to 33%. The year after that, 50%. And the year after that, 66%. It's completely, totally unsustainable. That is a curve, an ever-increasing curve of payments. We cannot live that way. Already, our lottery owners aren't getting paid because there's no cash flow. And there's no cash flow because we're paying off the debt. So reamortize it, which means flatten out, like getting a new mortgage and flattening out that payment. The other thing I talk about, and I'm very open about this, people need to be told the truth about it. They didn't bankrupt the state. Brad, you didn't, and I didn't. Our elected officials, my opponent and others, did it to us. And what we need to do is this. We need to look at three revenue sources. I've talked about a progressive income tax. I've talked about raising the corporate income tax back to where it was, 7, if not 8%. That's where it was, by the way, on January 1, 2015. And then business-to-business service taxes. The combination of those two, along with the reduction in what I call wasteful government spending, and there's not a lot there. I'm not here to lie about it. I'm not here to use a political phrase. There's some government spending we could look at cutting. You put those three things together, and we can get to a different future.
In the private sector, union wage and benefit collective bargaining demands are balanced against the free market forces. Mm-hmm. If a union prices the cost of its labor too high, forcing an employer into an uncompetitive position, the employer can cease operation and eliminate the workforce. The challenge with the public sector unions is the free market forces don't apply. You know, the state and local governments deliver necessary and vital public services, but those governments cannot cease operations and move to another state or overseas because the cost of labor is too high. How do we balance the rights of the state and local government employees with the rights of the employer, which is the tax-paying public?
Mm-hmm. So I'm a former union steward, chief steward, and first vice president of a local. So I have my roots in the union movement. I'm very thankful for all the unions have done. I would say this, that we should decouple the idea, though, that Illinois is bankrupt because of the unions. That's actually not correct. It's bankrupt because Illinois is corrupt. And because Illinois is corrupt, we're bankrupt. And that's the connection to be made. I actually don't look at either private sector or public sector unions as the reason we're bankrupt. And we're also bankrupt because our elected officials, Democrats and Republicans alike, who have been in office for more than, say, one term, cast the votes that bankrupted our state. That's clear. Pension holidays, which was a sham, underfunding the pensions, that was for 3 years. Pension holidays for 2 years. And then pension obligation bonds. The unions didn't do that. The elected officials did. They made promises they couldn't keep. And then they underfunded the pensions. And then they stripped out funds from social services. And here we are holding the tab.
What would you say is the number one issue confronting the state of Illinois today? And how would you solve them or approach the solutions differently from your opponent?
Mm-hmm. Number one issue is a fiscal issue. Number two is democracy. And they're actually very much entwined. So first of all, on the fiscal issue, as I've said, I will not cast the votes that will bankrupt the state any further. We'll stop the bleeding by reamortizing the debt, doing some revenue increases. I'm very honest and open about that. Honoring the state worker pensions and city worker pensions. I have been straightforward on that. My opponent, by the way, does not support the pensions of state workers or of police, fire, teachers. He took the votes against those. So I believe in that. I also think that school funding, and you talk about property taxes, we're going to have to quickly address the issue of school funding in Illinois because that is a massive over-reliance on property taxes, and I will look to do that. And then finally, democracy. And democracy is a word that for some people maybe is just something kind of read in your civics class, but it's very real. And when people are denied democracy, their ability to freely participate because their last name doesn't belong to one of the political families in the Chicago machine, they lose hope, and they lose belief that anything can change. We're going to bring that to an end. We're going to end the Chicago machine on 3/15/16. We're going to footnote that on the northwest side of Chicago once and for all.
What can you say to our listeners that would convince them that you're the better choice to represent District 15 versus your opponent?
Sure. Thank you very much for that opportunity too, Brad. So compared to my opponent, first of all, my number one goal will be to get our state into the black. My opponent has cast the votes that has bankrupted the state. That's a fact. Pension holidays, underfunding pensions, pension obligation bonds, those are just facts. Number two, unlike my opponent, I will not double dip. My opponent has 2 government jobs, collecting 2 paychecks each and every month, accumulating 2 government pensions. I think that's disgraceful, and I think that needs to come to an end. Number 3, I'm going to throw open wide the doors of our democracy. Brad, you said in our opening, I have 25 years of doing civic engagement. Each and every person in the 15th district from here on out after I'm elected will be able to freely participate in our democracy. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you know. I don't care what you have. I don't care how much money you have. If you want to get involved, get involved. You don't want to get involved, don't get involved, but you'll never have to worry about fear, intimidation. Who you are doesn't matter. It's just that you're a citizen. And finally, they're going to know me. My opponent is nowhere to be found anywhere until it's election time. They're going to know me. They're going to see me at the door. They're going to hear from me, and they'll say, yes, Jack Charlier is my state representative. We agree, we disagree, but he comes around, he says hello, and we talk.
Jack, how can people get a hold of you if they're interested in supporting your campaign?
Sure, thank you. www.citizensforjack.org. That's Jack with no K. Also on Facebook and Twitter at Citizens for Jack.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking with State Representative candidate for Illinois District 15, Jack Charlier, and I will be right back after this commercial break.